Well, my next guest tonight is an Englishman with Irish roots. He shot to fame in the 1980s as the colourful frontman of one of the defining bands of that era, and his popularity has endured in spite of his very public battle with drugs and repeated maulings at the hands of the tabloids. He's here tonight with his mum, a Dubliner, who has stood by her son in the absolute worst of times. Ladies and gentlemen, please give your warmest welcome back to Dublin to Boy George and his mother, Dinah. Oh, very welcome, Dinah. You're so nice. Can you sit there?
Aren't you tall?
Yeah. Do you know, you're very, very like your mother, facially.
I'm very feminine.
Yeah, no.
We do, yeah, we do.
No,
look,
Jenny,
yeah, we
I
have a bit,
met you
yeah.
and I just think you're both very good looking, but you are alike. Do you think that?
Yeah, my
Yes,
sister,
yes.
me, and my brother David look like my mum, and the others look like my dad. Dark, you know. They got hair, we got no hair. She's still got hair.
I have to say, to be fair, now, without George libelling our national airline, George was a bit upset because he flew in today for us, but he lost his bag and all his clothes, so we had to dress
I didn't
him.
lose my bag. The airline, which we've been told
Which
not to
one remained
mention,
nameless?
an Irish airline, lost my bag. But luckily, the wardrobe people found me a nice jacket.
we
I'm going to try and
dressed him.
keep
He
this.
looks
It's
good, doesn't
expensive. And they polished me up. I had my hat, thank God.
Yeah, you always have hats, don't you?
I had the hat, well, because you can't carry on more than one piece of luggage. So I had that in a separate suitcase. That came through because it weighed the less. Can you believe they charged me excess baggage and I didn't even get my bags? 40 euros.
But listen, Dinah, you are from Dublin, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little about where you were from and when you...
Well, I lived in Wellington Street, just off of Dorset Street. I lived there till I was 19. And then I came to London, and I've been here ever since, in London ever since.
And do you miss Dublin? I mean, do you go...
Well, I come home as often as I can, at least twice a year. And if there's anything going on, party, special events.
Press, you know.
And when he was getting to be really famous, how did you cope with that? Was that amazing? Was that something you expected?
Well, at the very beginning, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, no, the fact, I mean, he was, I knew he could sing. He was always singing from a child. But, like, the first time I see him on Top of the Pops was just, I kept looking and thinking, oh, my God, that's George. And I kept thinking he's going to fall over the wires.
Yeah, I know, but every mother thinks that about their job.
And then when he phoned me after and he said, what did you think? I said, it was great. I said, but I was frightened you'd fall over. He said, no, that was done yesterday.
But isn't just to remind people of how fantastic he was in those days. Not that you're still fantastic now, but we're going to have a look back. They have a clip upstairs of George in his heyday. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
What, now?
Do you know what I found really sweet? Because part of the reason you're on tonight is you've written your own book about your own life experience. We're going to get on to that in a moment. But one of the sweetest things is that even when he was really famous, you continued to work in your job as a cleaner.
Yes.
But that's so sweet. Why did you do
years. Well, because...
Just in case.
His...
You're Irish,
No,
just in case.
It's funny, really. After a while, being amongst people with lots of fame and lots of money is quite boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, honestly, it is quite boring because they're all false.
Yeah, no.
You know, when you...
You're not talking about me.
Yeah, no. Go on.
There is an awful lot of false...
Rubbish.
You know, they come up and say, hello, darling, and I don't know them. I've never seen them in my life before. They say things about your son, and I think, well, it's just a boy, you know, he's just... And he can sing. You see, what people perceive to be fame, I didn't see that. And then I just thought to myself, like, you know, well, that's him, and this is me. I've got other kids. I've got to get on with my life. And
But that's an amazing... And your book, I have to honestly say, was amazing. I saw you also in an RT documentary, Would You Believe, talking about your life with your husband, Gerald, and George's dad. And that was not an easy life.
No.
Tell me about it.
Well, it was a bit... I didn't realise, obviously, at first. I went away with great hopes of meeting somebody because I had a child.
Yeah.
And I met Gerald. He was very handsome, very charismatic. And I really did fall in love with him. And I was totally in love with him. And I think the violence and the gambling, I still tried to make the marriage work. And it wasn't to do with being a Catholic or anything like that.
No.
I mean, my mum had been married for 20, 40 years. And, you know, she was with my dad till he died. She died when she was 67. I just wanted it to work. You know, I didn't want to be, you know, I had a child, I messed up, and now I can't even hold a marriage together.
And you wanted it to work. And George, were you aware, obviously, because we have a little clip here actually, which is interesting about how he treated you, because he treated you also very badly, but were you aware growing up what he was like to your mother?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I have to say, I love my dad dearly. You know, my dad was an amazing man. And I think this is the saddest thing for all of us, was that my dad wasn't just a bad person. You know, if someone's just a bad person, you can write them off and say, well, my dad was an incredible man, you know, and I loved him dearly. But he just never knew what he had in my mother.
Yeah.
You know, it was like typical of that generation of fathers that could be... Everyone down the street loved my dad. You couldn't say a bad word about my father. Everyone knew him, and he was so charismatic. But he would come home and talk to my mother like she was, you know, sort of like the third world, you know, and it was a shame because, you know, he couldn't give her what he gave everybody else, and that was a tragedy.
He would show me, because he was a builder, he'd bring me to see this house and he'd tell me, what do you think of that? And it was fabulous. Yeah. And I couldn't even get a tin of paint on the walls. So, you know what I mean?
The kitchen, 20 years.
Because in other words, what you're saying is he was a gambler, but maybe he was just suffered from his own demons, that he wasn't necessarily a bad person, but he gave you a dog's life.
My dad was a child.
He was like my 7th child.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, eventually, that's how I had to treat him. You know, I just thought, you know, I don't want to listen to you. Go away.
But he was violent, as you said, which is never acceptable.
Well, at the beginning, the first thing was he saw me talking to somebody, put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5.
Yeah.
And didn't even ask me to explain who it was. He just punched me. I went across the room and obviously I was terrified.
We have a clip, actually, and as you say, you know, people are complicated, and as you say, your father had lots of good points, but if you're a woman and somebody's violent to you, that's always diabolical. But we have a clip here, actually, of your dad and you during the 80s talking to one of our presenters, Derek Davis, and he's talking about you, George. Let's just have a look at your dad.
What's he saying?
He comes from people that have got their feet firmly on the ground, that have got no illusions about life, no illusions whatsoever, you know. And George realises that success, you know, in a lot of respects is an imposter. You know, that we're all very normal people, and if success comes to us, it's a big bonus. Initially, when he started dressing up, I reacted. You know, I'll be honest with you, I reacted. But it became evident after a while that, you know, you just were not going to change George.
When you say you reacted, I mean, did you give him a clip in the ear?
No, I didn't actually sort of clip him or anything like that. It's not one of the real things that we've had to do, you know. We usually sort of just use the verbals, you know. But I'd still clip them in the ears, let's put it that way, you know. If they got too far out of line, I'd give them a backhand, or, you know.
My mum's face is always classic.
Your face was a picture there, like rubbish.
Yeah, well, you know.
But like when, for instance, George, do you think he found you difficult because you were gay and you dressed unusually for a boy?
This is the funny thing about my dad, you know. My dad was great when I came out. I came out when I was 15, which is a long time ago. And my dad was really cool. It was really cool. My dad was one of those people, when you thought he was going to go mad, he'd be totally rational.
Okay.
It's like, you do something really bad.
Very
like,
complicated character.
You know, you never knew when he was going to explode.
When did you know that George was gay? Did you know he was gay before he came out and said he was gay to you?
No.
You didn't?
No.
What do I have to do?
No. I mean, you know, so at 14 years of age.
No.
Well, I wouldn't have known anything about the gay scene at all, anyway.
Did you mind?
No. I told Georgie, OK, we sat down and we chatted, And I do remember thinking, oh, God, he's not going to have any children.
Yeah.
Now, that was the first thought that come into my head.
Selfish.
Yeah.
That's quite good, George.
But, you know, I thought, OK, you know, and, you know, you're still my son, I'll always love you. And I become more protective of him.
And you have been, well, first, the one thing sweet, though, when he loves dressing up, like dressed up for Marty tonight.
Oh, I had
But you
to.
used to help him, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
You used to tell us what you
Yeah.
used to do, go and get stuff for him. And,
Exactly. I've got a little grandson now who's 4.
Yeah.
And he loves dressing up.
yeah, like Uncle Georgie.
He'll dress up in
Chip
anything.
the old block.
But like you've always been, I know like Shane Ward was talking about his mum Philomena, but like I've read stuff you said and you've been incredibly supportive of George. Like even like when you went on drugs.
Yeah.
Tell that story about the time you went to his posh apartment in North London and realised he was out of his head and you cleared the flat,
Well,
didn't
that
you?
was St John's Wood, actually. Well,
Yeah.
it was a house, his little house, which was beautiful when he got it. And I hadn't heard from him for months.
Go on.
He'd take me over to Switzerland, because I'd just had a big operation. He'd take me over to Switzerland. I'd come back and still no word from him. I thought, OK, I'm going to leave it a couple of weeks, and if he doesn't, because he was phoning all the time.
Yeah.
And this day I just decided to leave work, get in a train and go up to St John's Wood. I could hear everybody in there, but he had,
Like gates.
no, he had this thing in front of the window.
What was that?
And I
Bars.
Bars, right?
thought, no,
Turret.
the other thing where people dress behind.
Oh, you
The
mean
screen.
the screen? Yeah.
Right. And I kept looking, thinking, I can see somebody sitting in
Yeah.
there. Anyway, he wouldn't answer the door, so I thought, OK, then. And his friend, Philip, was
Yeah.
shouting from across the road.
Yeah.
He's in there, dying. I went, I know he's in there. Shh, be quiet, because it was quite a posh area.
Okay, right.
And,
Poor Dinah.
Anyway, I banged on the door. I said, I'm not going till you open the door. I'll stay here all night if
Good
I
for
have
you.
to.
Yeah.
And I would have done. I'd have
Yeah.
stayed there. Anyway, he did let me in eventually.
But then you got him on the straight and narrow, didn't you? Then you
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah. Are you? This is a really boring question, but are you off drugs now?
I am currently off drugs, yeah.
Like tonight?
Currently,
He's
permanently,
off.
permanently,
Yes,
yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it difficult?
You can tell.
Yeah, no, I can actually, I was talking to you earlier, and you are in amazingly good form, and you look remarkably well for a guy who did have a serious drugs problem.
You can slip into that. It's one of those
Yeah.
things you have to always be aware of, you know. It's like any addiction, you know, it's every day is a blessing.
Yeah.
Every day you're not doing it is a blessing. Every day.
And we have this picture of you doing your community service in
Yeah.
New York last year, which I thought was really sweet. You're sweeping the streets,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But you liked doing that, didn't you?
Well, I resented the idea that I should be so ashamed that I did a bit of
Yeah.
cleaning. I mean, every
Hey,
woman that
your
wipes her
mother.
baby's arse, you know,
that was
was something
a
she
kid.
should feel ashamed. To me,
There you are there, actually.
yeah, exactly. The only thing I didn't like was the orange jerkin.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It wasn't
to
his
me,
colour.
you know, I guess if I was like a proper pop star, like
Yeah.
Elton John or Madonna, I would be horrified by doing a bit of sweeping. But I don't live in a vacuum, you know. I mean, I've grew up in a family of 6 kids. We always worked, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get my hands dirty. And also, I think in New York, like, say Naomi Campbell, she can get away with what she did. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the fact that she put on the gown.
Yeah.
You could do that if you were a diva, but I couldn't get away with that because people would have resented it. I broke the law to be seen to, you know, paying for my crime, whatever. So I went over there. I said, what should I do? And she said, just go and do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Get the
Just do
broom and
it,
start
do it.
singing.
But
Hard,
it stood to you,
do it
actually.
fast.
People really liked the
Yeah,
fact that you
people were
didn't
nice.
moan, you got up and you did it.
I mean, it was difficult doing it with cameras in your face. And, you know, after a while, like, you think, how many pictures do you need of me picking up bok choy or a sweaty piece of newspaper? That got on my nerves, the press, because I just thought, it's not that interesting, is it?
But I suppose the other thing is reading stuff, like I know because you were very close to John Moss and stuff, is that an awful lot of your friends actually didn't survive drugs. Sure, they
No,
didn't.
a lot
So
of people,
does
yeah.
that, in a sense, help you to stay off sometimes? Or not?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I mean, people that you love, obviously, I mean, you know, AIDS, drugs, all sorts of things, you know, old age, you know. You know, but, you know, you...
Hardly that.
You know, but, you know, you just...
Yeah.
Anything that reminds you how lucky you are is a good thing.
Are you in love at the moment?
No. But I'm open to persuasion. No, I'm not. I'm having a very loveless period at the moment. I'm not saying I don't have any nookie noodoo.
Yeah, that's okay. But would
We
you...
don't want to hear that.
She might.
No, not in front of your mother.
No. My mother's very open-minded, and thank God I have a very open-minded mother.
But is it like, your life is incredibly busy, you're really successful DJing, like,
Yes.
around the place. Your musical Taboo, right?
Yes.
That's gonna...
I have a clothes shop in London as well.
Do you?
Yeah, a little clothes shop. A small, you know, bijou boutique, you know.
So is life good, or is it, when you're such a big star, for instance, in the 80s, is it very difficult to move on from that?
No, it's difficult for other people to move on.
Yeah.
It's like everybody... I feel like I'm the only person who knows the 80s are over. I feel like I'm the only one. It's like, I've been busying myself for years. I mean, I've probably done more work since leaving the band.
That's true,
Yeah.
that's true. But
you
people
know,
keep saying
but
to me, well, what's he doing now? Because we don't hear him. I went, but he is working.
Yeah, but no, because it's probably just because you were so big then, and then...
I have to say, there is an embargo in the UK on me on the radio. They don't play me on the radio. I've become a bit of a bitch, you know. People sort of see me as this person that just bitches about everybody.
And
so
do
I've
you?
got to, well, I do, and you know, like
Now and
with
again,
me,
yeah, he
with
does,
me,
now and again.
I'd say what I think, you know, and you know, sometimes it gets misconstrued because sometimes I just say things for the sake of it, just to be funny, you know. Like at school, I was always the one, you know, like making rude comments and being the joker because it's a way of getting attention. But half the time, I don't really mean what I say.
And one of the
be a bit
toughest
cheap.
periods in your life, wasn't it? Because actually, the big story in Ireland at the moment is obviously the conviction tonight of the murder of Joe O'Reilly for his Rachel, murder of Rachel. And you have said, haven't you, Diane, the worst day of your life was when your son Gerald was convicted for killing his own wife. Do you think that was perhaps the way he learned violence from his dad, or do you think that was just...
Well, unfortunately, see, while George was on drugs, unknowns to me, Gerald was on drugs. But Gerald was on cocaine and other things that he was taking that affected his mind, and he went into a very deep depression. He actually had a mental breakdown. Now, to deal with Georgie and to deal with that, and to have a husband who was ranting and raving was horrendous. Everywhere I took Gerald, all they wanted to talk about was his brother.
I see what you...
Now, and you might, that's amazing that doctors or somebody in a profession, you know, I took him to one person and he came back and I, how did you get on? He said, all she wanted to talk about was George. So you don't go there again, right? So I was trying to work, keep my eye on George and also keep my eye on Gerald. But he got in and done this thing called Turning Point, which he done twice. Met this girl.
Like a self-help course, yeah.
Met this girl, and within 56 days, it was a roller coaster. He was out of my home and married, and then unfortunately he had a breakdown, and that's when it happened.
You're a very strong woman, though. Is it? I mean, I read about you grew up in this Dublin tenement, right? But it was a happy time. But did that, you know, early beginning make you a very strong woman? Because you are a very strong woman, because you've coped with a lot.
Well, I think too. My dad, although my dad was a gambler and he liked to drink, he was a happy drunk. He wasn't a nasty drunk.
Yeah.
And he was always... No, there are happy drunks and there are people who, you know, they're very violent when they're drunk. But my father also helped us with our homework. He'd make things for us, like cases to bring to school. Yeah. You'd have a lovely wooden case and someone in that...
And he was quite poetic, our granddad, wasn't he? Where he used to do great poems.
Yeah.
It was a real, you know...
And he, like Georgie, if he heard a song, then he'd make funny words up about that song. Or he'd do poetry, you know. But I mean, he...
What's that? Once was Molly Malone, she wanted the streets broad and narrow. She loved every man that she met and brought all home in her barrow.
Yeah. That was one of my
granddad's ditties. I remember it.
Yeah.
To this day.
But, like, he was very intelligent, but never used that intelligence. It was like Gerald. He was intelligent, but he didn't use it.
Well, look, I'm
frustration.
We've got loads of text messages in saying, A, delighted to see you, looking so good, and secondly, that you're a wonderful woman and you're an extraordinary survivor, and I just want to thank you both very much for being my guest tonight.
My mum's the best mum in the world.
Yeah, no, Shane Moore says that. No, you are. Of course
she really is, though.
Yeah, you're lucky to have her, actually.
Oh, trust me, I know that.
Yeah.
More than anyone.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Diana, you're embarrassing me now.
No, thank you so much for coming in tonight.
After everything I've done to you, embarrassed.
Finally, George, thanks a million.
Thank you so much.
Very popular. Thank you very much. Happy. You were great. You happy? Yeah, it was nice. She's up there. She's looking for her sister. She's here, Dinah. Oh, it's her sister's birthday. Okay, I can't ask you to sing happy birthday because it's like sing along, Miriam, this show. So, but happy birthday anyway to Phyllis. And listen, we've got another great guest for you to meet after the break. Join us in a few minutes. Thank you very much. You're great.
They build healthy Irish